Tony Stewart told me this, quote unquote. Tony Stewart told me this. Mike Wallace helped me more than 3 therapists could ever help me. What's your thought about that?
It's the Kenny Wallace Conversation, brought to you by JEGS.
There's a few changing points in my life, and it's just not about around net racing. You know, and I think to put it in perspective, and very few people know about it. Of course, you do. We're very attached to it. My wife and I lost a child, Mikey, when he was 2 years old.
Yeah.
And that changes your whole perspective on life. My saying has been for many years, if it's changeable or fixable, it is only an obstacle of life.
Good
So
job.
what bothers a lot of people doesn't bother me in the least.
Yeah.
You know, I don't make problems out of little things. And in regards to the real estate world, which, you know, I was racing and I said, you know, I realized that was coming to an end and I didn't have a lot of money to mess with. So I went and bought old buildings.
Yeah.
You know,
You're good at it. You're very good at it.
Cheap, you know, what would be considered junk. And my son, Matt, Bobby Meese, our great friend that, you know, you helped, you know, you grew up around, we'd go down there and we'd physically work. Not like I'd hire it out. We'd physically work and take them old buildings.
You did it all.
And turn them into something, and we'd rent them out. And then all of a sudden somebody'd go, wow, I'd like to buy that building. Here's what I'll offer you. And we'd look at each other and go, really? That much? So, you know, I think it's just a drive, a passion. I don't like sitting around. I'm not a boring, I don't like being bored. Yeah. If somebody says, oh, you're retired, you know, you're retired and you sit around, that's not me. I constantly, my wife tells me I work too much. She says, why are you always never satisfied? You always want more. I says, it's not that I want more. It's just, I don't like doing nothing.
Yeah. You know, an audible right now, you brought up baby Mike, 1984. You went through the worst tragedy in life. And I want to fast forward because I thought it was incredible how you helped people along the way because of that. Tony Stewart, he was upset because he didn't win a race, and you've taken what you've went through, and I believe that you've helped everybody. You know, there's some people that run third in a heat race and they're just devastated. Oh, I didn't make the transfer spot, and because of what you've gone through with baby Mike, you've straightened a lot of people out in life. Tony Stewart told me this, quote unquote. Tony Stewart told me this. Mike Wallace helped me more than 3 therapists could ever help me. What's your thought about that?
Well, I remember the day, I remember the time, I remember when it all happened that I met Tony. I mean, I knew Tony, but didn't know him well. And we won't get into the details of it.
No.
But it was the July 4th race in Daytona. I won the race that night. Earlier that day, we had a conversation. And I shared what had happened in our life. And I offered, if he was so miserable, I offered to trade him positions.
Yeah.
You know, if you got that, and you know, if your race car is that bad, let me drive your race car. Yeah. You come drive the cars I drive.
Yeah.
And you know, your old buddy Eddie Jarvis was his bus driver early on, just a bus driver for him. He introduced us, and it just so happened I won that night at Daytona.
Big win.
And the very first person that was in victory lane was Tony Stewart, standing there with this huge smile. So like 2 weeks later, I'm walking behind the pit box at Joe Gibbs Racing on a cup race, and Joe Gibbs stops me, Coach Joe Gibbs, and he goes, hey, he says, I want to thank you. And I says, for what? He says, I don't know what the conversation was with you and Tony, and I'm not going to ask you what it was, but Tony looked at us and said he had a conversation, and literally his kind of like outlook on things is way different. And he says, you were inspirational or whatever you said to him. So thank you. And then a few weeks later, that magazine, the ESPN, the magazine, it might have been a month later, Tony made a mention of our conversation. And I don't know, he just, number one, he's a great guy. He's an incredible person.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Maybe some people don't realize how bad is.
Yeah.
You
Right.
know?
Yeah. I always say when people talk about people, I'm like, well, hold on now. You don't know everything.
Yeah. There's a lot of stories people don't know. And I do, since I thought I said this to you before, but just always remember, if it's changeable or fixable, it's just an obstacle in life. It's when you can't change it or fix it, is when it's really bad.
Right. I agree. So I didn't know how to approach that. You brought it up. It's uncomfortable for me. I love you so much.
It's uncomfortable for everybody. I remember, because unfortunately for you, it falls right when your birthday was, so when that happened, but it is what it was and is, and never forget about it. Never gets easier, it gets harder and harder. But that was a part of our life that's real difficult. And, we proceeded past that. And I think that's given us, when I use the word us, that's my wife and I, my family, and, giving us that strength to do things, never let that, oh, I can't do that, or look what he's got, no, just go out and earn it.
I still think of baby Mike to this day. He would do that little dance and wiggle, but brother, I love you so much. So let's stay on that genre. You win Daytona, and we do want to take a 180 here. Daytona, Talladega, damn man, you could hold a class. You were, when the Craftsman Truck Series first started, you won the very first Craftsman truck race ever at Daytona. Then you come back that race you're talking about, that July race, in the red Geico car. I mean, you flat get it on. You ran an incredible finish in the Daytona 500. You run fourth at Daytona. Tell me about this speedway stuff. You are so good at it.
Just hard to beat talent, Herm.
That's right. That's right, damn it. You're just good there. You are, though. You don't mess around. You go through the middle. You get it done.
Everybody says there's a contributing point to something. And I will say this, and whether you want to believe it or not, and we all throw these stories, the Earnhardt name sticks in everybody's mind forever. And you always throw it. But and this is a true story. Early in my career, I just moved down here, and I went up. Got a hood from Richard Childress for a charity that I was doing, and I asked Dale Earnhardt if he would sign it for me. And he says, the only way I'm going to sign it is if you come up and hang out at the farm all day.
Oh, damn.
And it's like, he didn't realize that was a big thing to me. I get to hang out with Dale Earnhardt.
Anybody.
So I went up there and literally got there at 9 o'clock in the morning, and I stayed till 4. And we talked about racing. We talked about Daytona, Talladega, all those type of things. And I think I learned things that the average person didn't get that exposure to. And then I enjoyed the racing there. I liked racing at Daytona and Talladega, whether it was whatever restrictor plates, whatever restrictions. And, the old story in racing, to go, you got to go somewhere they're not. And I remember Hornaday and I talking about it. He goes, man, he says, you went through the middle. I didn't know if I was supposed to follow you, but I did. And he says, holy crap, we both failed. So just fun. Would really love to go race there, continue to race there. But that, my last big race was driving Kevin Harvick's truck there.
Talladega, right?
And the Anderson maple syrup truck. And
you won.
I won the race.
Yeah.
So I drive for Kevin.
Right?
Pardon?
Talladega?
Yeah. Talladega. I have that was 2010. I have a 1,000% batting average driving for Kevin Harvick. Yeah. One race, one win.